Paid leave is coming to Minnesota. Caregivers shouldn't have to choose between a paycheck and taking care of themselves or a loved one. So starting in 2026, Minnesota's new paid family and medical leave program will be here to help. So when you need time off to take care of family, you get part of your pay and your job will be there when you return. AARP Minnesota championed this change, and now they want to help you prepare. Learn more at aarp.org/MN paid leave. This ad has been paid for by AARP.
You're listening to In Sickness, a caregiving podcast from the Negative Space with Allison Breininger and Justin Bima. Good morning, Allison.
Hi, Justin. This morning we have a very special guest with us, my mom, Barbara Resch. Mom, thank you so much for being here on the podcast with us.
Well, it's very exciting to be, as I said, in the room where it happens and to see you both while I hear you.
Yeah, you're a loyal listener to the podcast, and we appreciate that. So now you're getting to see the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Right.
We invited you here to talk because when we think about the ring theory that we talk about a lot on this podcast, I would say that in my family, you're ring 3. So like Sean is in the middle, and then I'm the primary caregiver. But then I would say it's you. I mean, you help care for him. You care for me, for Maya, for the pets, the house. You are in it on an almost daily basis with us. But your role as the secondary caregiver is, I would say, pretty much unseen and unrecognized for the most part. And so I kind of want to dig in together into what that's like. So That's our plan.
All right.
Barbara, so I've had the chance to meet you. You visited us with Allison and Sean here in Washington a few years back. I've been out in Minnesota to visit Sean and Allison as well. And I've seen that you live very close to them, like 5 minutes away. But as I understand, you didn't always live that close to them. Is that correct?
That is correct. We moved here just about 10 years ago from Indiana, where my husband and I had lived for, 30 some years. That's where Allison was born and grew up. And that the way that story goes is that I was working hard, and my husband was working hard. And that's when Sean was diagnosed. And it was so hard being that many miles away and just getting the emails, getting the phone calls. It was making Allison sort of have to keep up all the time and let us know. And I tried hard to not say, so what's new kind of thing. And so we moved here shortly after I retired, about 6 months after I retired, really with the intention of it's going to be actually easier for us to be nearby. And definitely these kids are going to need some help. And it's easier to be there than, well, we had also done some back and forth in the semester after Sean's bone marrow transplant. I got a leave of absence from my university job for a semester and worked remotely and was able to, I moved in and stayed with them for about, 5 months or so. And in the summers, we would try to come out and be helpful. But yeah, we made the move. And one of the things we looked for when we were looking for a place to live here was, okay, how close can we be to the Breiningers?
Yeah.
And I think at this point, on a good day, it's about 8 minutes.
Okay. It's pretty close. Yeah.
Pretty close. It's great.
That's great. So when you made that decision to move 600 miles away to support Sean and Allison, what did you think that would end up looking like? I mean, it sounds like maybe you had a little bit of a picture because you had spent some extended time there, but did you have kind of think about what that was going to end up entailing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one thing that I've learned in these, what are we up to, 14 years or so, is to not have a lot of expectations because who knows how it's all going to fall out.
Right.
So I think another piece of it is that, as you know, and your listeners know, Sean's health and the crisis situations kind of come and go. And sometimes it's very intense. And sometimes we're cruising a little bit and waiting in between things, or, oh yeah, we're in a good patch. So I think I came into it kind of with that expectation that, yeah, sometimes it's going to be intense and sometimes we're going to be able to be relaxed a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I will say that when we moved here, I pretty early on made the decision, you know what, I can't commit to doing something every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9:00.
Mm.
You know, I had been a university teacher. I had thought maybe I could do some adjunct teaching and thought, you know what, I can't commit. And then have tried to structure what I do around flexibility and availability, just kind of seeing the picture of, yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty that goes on in their lives. And I just have to be able to roll with that.
Mm-hmm. What has that been like to have to like give up some of the things that you would maybe like to be doing otherwise, to be able to be available? I mean, it's understandable why you would want to do that, but I imagine there is a little bit of like, I don't know, grief around how it's impacted your own life in that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't even go so far as to call it grief, maybe some regret.
Okay.
But I think we all are at places in our lives where, you know, it could have gone that way, but it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the way it's going, and this is the way that we'll live.
Yeah.
It perhaps was also, I mean, it was a real juncture in my life because of retirement. And so it's not that, I mean, I hardly knew anybody in the Twin Cities.
Right.
So it's not that I had a lot of things I want to keep doing this. It was creating a new life in a lot of ways.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So you've been here 10 years, or you've been in Minnesota 10 years now. And you've said that like there's times when it's a little more calm and there's the really intense times, right?
Right.
So in those more intense times, like as the kind of secondary caregiver, what does your life kind of actually look like on a day-to-day basis?
I think that I try and you know, Allison's great about being encouraging when people do things for her, but I try to just say, okay, I can come over and do this. Would you rather have me do this? I'm going to be out. Can I go to the drugstore? Sometimes I even say, how's your laundry situation? That kind of thing. And as I said, I've really tried to plan the things that I do with a level of flexibility so that if I'm taking a Zoom class, it's not the end of the world if I miss one session of that. So, and you know, Justin, every day is different.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Sure, yeah.
So there's that. I mean, it depends. It's like, do I clear the decks and I'm going to be over at their house doing things, or is this a calmer day for me?
Yeah.
I will say this, that I leave my phone on.
Okay.
And I would prefer to not do that, but you know, there have been calls that came at inopportune times, and I think, okay, I'm glad I've left my phone on.
Right. Yeah.
So with that, I mean, you think about like the flexibility of your schedule, but that's also, you know, we've talked a lot here on the podcast about your nervous system, right? And just being on alert.
Yeah.
And I know there's a good friend of ours who cared for both of her parents. And when the second one died, she said she turned off her phone at night for the first time in 4 years.
Sure.
Right. And sort of like what that's like to have that shutdown. And so for you, I mean, to recognize that it's not just like your calendar, but it's like your nervous system is sort of always on alert. And I know that sometimes we've joked about when you see my name, you know, call on your phone. It's like I'm careful to like be like, hi, Mom, you know, to try to like even so that you know right away, like, because I know that there are seasons when you answer your phone like, hello, like what's going to be on the other end, right? Like, what is that part like?
I mean, that is really true. That your ring, I didn't set this up, but you have a different ringtone, so I always know it's you.
Yeah.
And I always answer with some trepidation because sometimes you're right. It's, you know, it's just, you know, how are you doing? Going for a walk kind of thing. And then sometimes it's, can you get over here right now?
Right.
Or it's, oh, Mom, you know, kind of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's just, whatever comes through the phone, I have to be kind of ready to react to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that happened the other day that we had an exceptionally, we had a lot of exceptionally hard days recently. And
which one are you going to pick?
Well, we'll get to a couple of them. It's only a 45-minute podcast. But, there was this day recently. Sean was in excruciating pain after surgery, and it was 2:00 in the afternoon on Saturday. And I decided that we needed to call an ambulance. So I called them. After I called them, I texted you, please come here right now. That's all I said. And you did. You said, okay. No questions asked. And you got here before the ambulance did.
I did. I did.
So tell us, share with us, what was it like to see that text? You said you're 8 minutes away. What were those 8 minutes like, not knowing what you were about to find?
Yeah, that was indeed difficult. And, there have been other times, and it's just, okay, I know what's the fastest route.
Mm-hmm.
I drop everything. I yell at your dad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to Allie's.
Mm-hmm.
And then pray, going up the snelling, the winding hill up there to get to your house. That's the shortest way.
Mm-hmm.
Just praying that you guys are okay and that I'm given the strength and the wisdom to deal with whatever I'm going to find.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, these are really intense things that you're sharing and that you're experiencing. And I think nobody really thinks about that part. So there's the piece of people say, like, if I say I had to call 911, like there's a recognition of that.
Mm-hmm.
But, people, and I'll say like, my mom's here with me, right? And oh, bless her, right? But nobody, I think, I don't think, there isn't, we're trying to shine light on the caregiving story in general, right? I think we're getting better at that. But I think the secondary ring is still in the shadows. And so all that you're going through and the alertness that you have to be on and the answering your phone when your daughter calls and not knowing what it's going to be, and that zipping up that hill and not knowing what you're going to find. The load of that sounds intense. And to add on top of it, like, I don't think that people recognize that or support that. Or have you found that to be true? Or do you have people who see you and are sort of seeing like, oh, this must be hard on you too?
Thank you for saying that. I think you're exactly right, that because I see my role also as, focused towards the center.
Mm-hmm.
And I see myself as caring for you, the caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that I hear are really not directed at me as, oh, you're a caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
They're directed at, oh, that's hard as a mom, or, oh, you're such a great mom to do that, or, oh, you're so good for our daughter, or, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I really don't hear, oh, that must be hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it is.
Mm-hmm.
And you've taught me so much about like not bright siding and not saying, oh, it's such a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
But, and it's true. I'm thrilled that I'm here and able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand that other people will focus on Sean and clearly on you and not see me in that role or anybody else who's doing this kind of supportive thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is an unseen role. I think you're right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about, so you said that people might recognize like, oh, you're here supporting your daughter. And so that same terrible day, you and I hopped in your car and followed the ambulance, and I was a hot mess. I was weeping uncontrollably the whole way. So what is it like for you to, and like you said, there's many, many phone calls where you answer and I say, Mom, right? And so what is it like for you to be witnessing your daughter go through this incredibly hard thing for 14 years?
It's horrible.
Yeah.
It truly is. And that drive, because we're like on the tail of the ambulance, not letting them out of our sight. And I'm like, I remember thinking, say something comforting to her, but then thinking, she doesn't want to hear the platitudes. I can't say that one. Then I can, because you have sort of taught me that.
Yeah.
To like, this is not a moment to be saying things that aren't going to be helpful. Because then I remember thinking I need to say something, you know what, actually concentrate on your driving.
Yeah.
So in that moment, and, and there have been other moments like that. There have been other, we all know this, breaking down and crying and I can't do this and this is so hard moments that I have been next to you for.
Yeah.
And it's, any parent knows this. This is not what you want for your child growing up. This is not what I wanted when you were little or when you got married. This isn't how we ever thought this would play out.
Right.
And so seeing this happen with somebody that you just love with all your heart and soul is so, so hard.
Yeah.
And I think also during that time, I really felt a little helpless. Okay, the thing I can do is like get the car there safely and get her into the ER safely.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what happens after that. Yeah.
Right.
Is it, you talked about it was so hard being 600 miles away.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both hard, right? But, you think about sitting there and like witnessing it, being like front row seat for these hard things versus, like Sean's family gets a text that says, hey, we just took an ambulance ride and we're in the ER, right? And that's a different kind of hard. Like, what are those two? Because you've lived both of those. Yeah. Is just a little compare and contrast?
Well, I mean, strictly, I mean, as a mom, I want to be there next to you and then doing whatever it is that you need. So you needed coffee. I don't remember which day that was, but there was one of those
days together. So
let's see, it was the early morning one.
Yeah.
When's that coffee shop going to open? So that sort of, whatever little thing that I could do makes me at least feel more useful than being far away and just, hoping and praying.
Yeah. Yeah. Something that because the one you're referring to is, a couple days later, after the first terrible ambulance, we went back on another ambulance ride in the middle of the night. And, you said, do you want me to be there? And I said, yep. And later I thought, well, is that like not fair of me? Because there's not really anything she can do. And it's 4:00 in the morning and da. But I thought later about just like the piece of like co-regulation, meaning having, which is like the most important thing for our nervous system. So like if it's just Sean and me, like I am very much on and I'm on, like I'm there as the caregiver. But if I have this other calm presence in the room, that's called co-regulation, where like I can sort of pull off of your energy and you can help me regulate. And it's like, I hadn't thought of it that way until someone described that. And I thought, yeah, that's, and just even to be able to say to you like, oh, do you think, should I go, like, it's been a while, should I go find somebody? Or, to have a second person in the room to be able to like be witnessing this and taking it in and like answering the question, all of that is huge and helpful. And so even if it just looks like, oh, we're just sitting here, sort of the sharing the burden of the witnessing and the experience, not that I wish that on you, but now we also have this experience where we can say, remember that time? Remember when we were in the hallway? Remember when they put him in the hallway?
That was so terrible.
With a sign that said like, this is,
triage area
triage 3 or something.
I threw that on that sign on the wall.
Right. And so it's like this shared experience. And so having this extra person to experience that with, not that I want you to, but it sort of lessens the burden on me, if that makes sense.
That's great to hear, because I often in those situations will realize, okay, you're so experienced at this. You know exactly what to do and what to say and whose buttons to push to make things happen and how to be with Sean and all that. And I try to then sort of keep the appropriate distance. I'm not going to be the person then who like criticizes what's going on. I'll nod and agree, but this is, you are the person who's the closest, and it's really your call for what's the thing we're going to do now? Where are we going to sit? How are we going to help him and so forth? And where should I be in all of that? So I think, throughout in those terrible emergency situations, but I think in other ways too, and tell me, off air if I'm doing this well or not. But I really try to stay in ring 3 and not push into an area that feels like this should be yours.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I will say on air that I think you're great at that.
Okay, thank you.
But I wonder what that's, is there ever a time that you're, because you're a brilliant person, and so like that you're thinking like, ooh, I wonder if they should, or ooh, I wonder, but that you just sort of stay back and stay quiet, because I don't ever feel like you're pushing in, like there might be a question like, have you thought about, or what are you all thinking about? But it's more out of sort of curiosity and not in like I'm taking over, or I know better than you.
No, I know better than to do that about medical things. Absolutely. Because, first of all, because you know so much, and also you get so much unsolicited advice.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be a part of that.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Because people will come up to me and say, oh, my friend's father had such and such, and I don't pass those things on necessarily to you. So I'm fine with not getting involved in any of that. I've had some participation in, like, shooting stuff into his port and into all of that
absolutely
stuff.
You have.
Right? Yeah, but that's the extent of my medical expertise. That and like WebMD.
Right. No, you have been very hands-on in the ways that we have asked and wanted it. Right. And so I always think back to when he had his tongue. Yes, it was the tongue surgery.
Oh, my word, yes.
And that was just wild. And, you made a spreadsheet of like, here's all the medications and here's the things that need to happen at each hour. And between the two, it took both of us.
But then you put it in a plastic sleeve so that we could check off with a marker and then erase that for the next day.
We make such a good team. I know.
Good tip.
Good tip.
Good tip, everybody. But yeah, the crushing of the pills and then the around the clock schedule, that was a tough time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so, you have been there very hands-on, but I have never felt like, oh, you were overstepping or you were, trying to get in our way or anything like that. It's just more like, I know that at any moment I can say, can you do this? And that you will say yes, if you can.
Yeah. And you've also been good about saying, and Mom, if this doesn't work for you, or if this is not something you can do.
Yeah.
And I just have to trust that you're saying that honestly and sincerely.
Of course. Yeah.
And often I'll just say, no, I think I can still do that. So,
because I love that even at CVS, the pharmacists know you and Sean and me by face, and they know you attached to us.
Right.
Because you've gone so often to pick up our medications.
Sure. And they'll ask about you.
Oh, yeah.
So if we go back to the ring theory for a minute, part of that is that you comfort in, which it sounds like you're great at doing in this situation, but you also then have to vent and dump out. And I imagine, like, it's obvious that the two, Allison and Barbara, you two are very close. Is it hard to not be able to talk to your daughter about how this is affecting you and how hard this is for you, or how to walk that line? And then have you found other kind of avenues to outlets for when you need to kind of express the challenges of how this is affecting you?
Not to sound all pious about this, but it would never occur to me to complain to Allison about my role in this situation. For one thing, I asked for it.
Yeah.
And I said, would you, we'd like to move to Minnesota and help you. Is that okay? So yes. So I asked for it. I am probably not so good at like not complaining to her about other things because she's such, as we know, she's such a great listener. So I'll complain to her about other things and people in my life, but it just doesn't seem appropriate for me to say, man, you called me at 4:15 a.m. It doesn't.
Yeah.
And not to say that what's happening with Sean doesn't affect me and Allie's dad just profoundly in so many ways. But she knows that. They both know that.
Mm-hmm.
And they have been nothing but gracious to us in what we've done with them and for them and so forth. So it just, I don't think that's anything that I even struggle with.
Have you found other people in your life to, because again, like I did call you a 415, right?
You did.
And so are there other outlets? So you said it wouldn't even occur to you to say that to me, but are there other outlets in your life that you feel like you have found where you are able to say like, we just had this I had to watch my daughter like sobbing in the car or, like, have you found other places where you can dump out?
Sure. And as you know, when we moved into our condo 10 years ago, I made like two of the best friends of my life in women in two other condos on our floor. And that's been a wonderful lifesaver in a lot of ways because, one of them especially was dealing with a caregiving situation for her brother, had been in a long-term caring situation for a family friend. And so gets it.
Yeah.
And so so we were able to share, this was a hard thing that we just did. And also to share in, one of those, I think by now, both of those people she was caring for have passed away. And so to kind of talk through that has been a really good outlet. And it's just kind of an amazing thing that we moved here and then here were these two wonderful people.
Yeah. On your floor.
On our floor.
Yeah.
That, that God put in our lives at this point. So that's probably been for me like a great, release valve.
Yeah.
And, and a source of support and comfort for me.
Yeah. Well, and I love that they're right there. I mean, and so it's not like, oh, I'm going to make a coffee date with someone to be able to talk about this, on a daily basis, you can talk. And so that I'm so glad that you have that release and that they know us too. And so you're not just saying like, oh, it's this person, but that, they have the relationship with us as well.
And then one will like read something that Sean has written and then just come and say, oh, this thing that just touched me so much. This was so hard. So they're in your lives, as you're right. They're in your lives as well.
Yeah. I'm so glad you have that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So something that occurred to me earlier in the conversation is, so we've got Allison in ring 2. We've got you, Barbara, in ring 3. Both of you are like on call, right? So Allison is the primary caregiver. Like you are living your life on call, ready to step in and do whatever is needed for Sean. But you are also there with Sean for the most part, right? So you can kind of see how things are progressing in some ways. You are living the situation.
Yeah.
And Barbara, being in ring 3, you are a step removed, and I'm sure that there is communication between you, but like, your phone rings at 2 a.m. You don't know what's going on. Like you're on call, but you don't know if things are like taking a turn until you get that call. So it just kind of strikes me as a difference between that secondary support person, like also needing to feel on call, but just not having all the information, just being in the dark a little more, and how that maybe, I don't know, I can see how that would impact your nervous system in a different way, or just kind of be a different experience to go through. I don't want to say that one is easier or harder than the other, but they're certainly different. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good insight in that I don't always know, like, how was his day? Something that I think I have also learned from Allison is it's really not so helpful to like be saying, so how are you? Or to, know that she's sitting in a waiting room somewhere and text, so what's going on? And I also try to protect her from other people doing that sort of thing. So yeah, you're right that sometimes I have to be brought up to speed really fast with whatever the latest situation is. And I don't know everything that's going on. Sometimes this is not a criticism. I'm fine with it, but sometimes I read the latest report because she puts it on Facebook and I find out with the rest of the world.
Right.
You know what? And I'm okay with that. I don't feel like I have to be in this privileged place where I'm in on every piece of information. But I do have that separation too of, so how was this day? And what's happening with the pain? So I don't get the minute by minute description. And partly I do that just so that she doesn't have to tell me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think about, I mean, when you knew the day that the afternoon one, when I called or when I texted, I mean, you knew there was some pain stuff going on, but I mean,
right.
You know, definitely none of us thought that was going to cause that. And the middle of the night one, I mean, that was out of nowhere. Right. So you're right, Justin, that like, I'm sort of watching the progression from these hours and I'm taking the vitals and I'm just leading up to this decision. You're just like, boom, phone rings, you know? And so that's even more, you know, like you said, it's not a competition, but like, I can imagine that that's a little bit like even more jarring of like not knowing. Yeah.
Right. Because right in that moment, I walk in the door and, you know, and fortunately, I mean, even when you're sobbing, you're on, you know, on top of things and you can tell me, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened. So this is what's happened. And, you know, and you're good about getting the appropriate amount of information out generally. So that I kind of have a sense of the seriousness of the situation and so forth. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You said the other night, so we went to an event together because that's, I mean, we do get to do fun things together.
It was dark out.
It was dark out and all three of us in the dark went to an event. So, I mean, that is a bonus that we should mention is that we do actually get to do fun things together too. Although the event we went to was about Alzheimer's. So, you know, I mean, you know, fun, sort of. But so we went to this AARP event together, you and Sean and I, and focus was on Alzheimer's. And you shared, there was a little table discussion afterwards, and you shared that you sort of live in fear of, you know, a dementia diagnosis or something else because you feel like you are holding and carrying so much for all of us. And correct me if I'm misquoting you. And that you just feel like this pressure that you have to stay healthy and okay.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I misquoted you. Can you speak to that?
That's exactly right. And I think I'm not a worrier really, but I think if there are worries in my life, that's it. That, I mean, as you know, I basically am the driver in my marriage. And I also care for my older sister in some ways. And I have thought, if I break my leg and can't drive, we are all up a creek here. Or if I have a serious health diagnosis or if I'm in the hospital, I mean, I think about those things a lot.
Yeah.
And then, you know, in that evening, in talking about like early onset dementia and what that starts to look like, that really scares me. That really worries me because then the last thing I want to do is like, you know, leave you out there without the support that I know that you need.
Right.
I've said this before sort of jokingly, but when we first broached the subject of moving to Minnesota, I said, you know, Allison, we're going to grow old here. And you said, that's fine, come anyway.
Because that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. And, you know, and I'm 10 years older now. But I do think about that a lot. I've got to stay healthy. And I just can't even bear to think about a time that you might have to switch your attention to caring for your parents instead of Sean. That absolutely breaks my heart to think about that. So yeah, that's something that's really on my mind often in the choices that I make daily. Like, don't fall down, don't get sick.
Yeah. I mean, what does that look like? I mean, don't fall down, but like, how do you move differently through your day trying to prioritize your health in that way?
You know, and it's not maybe that it's a priority. It's just that a reminder that, you know, be careful when you're out here. I got good shoes, you know, all of those things that I can't just like, well, we'll let the chips fall where they may and then live out my life, because I still feel I have this really important responsibility and and I mean, totally, it's a privilege that I get to do this, but I don't want to lose that.
Yeah.
Because it's both that, you're doing so much for others. And so both, like, if something happened to you, then what would, like you said, we'd be up a creek. But then also, like you said, like, then us, like, if you needed care, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Remember, there was that one time that I went to the ER.
Yes.
And it turned out to be, well, we don't have to talk about what it was, but it's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And all the way I'm saying to your father, do not call Allison. Do not call Allison.
Mm.
So here I am in the ER. So in walk Sean and Allison. How did you know I was here? Dad called. And I thought, that's so obvious. Do not tell Allison. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we were at the clinic because the whole family uses the same health system.
Oh, right.
So we're sitting at the clinic and Dad texts and says, your mother's at the ER. And I can literally see the ER from where I'm sitting in the clinic. And so I'm like, okay, so Sean's here and then she's there and like, what? And it's, it's hard because then I fear that you or others would keep something from me,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she says. But it's like, well, then I have this worry of like, wait, is there something happening? Is there some diagnosis? Is there something that we just don't know about because they're not telling us? And, I'd rather know. But so
and I don't know if this is if this is, a motherly protective kind of thing. But I mean, you've got a lot of people, Allison, who love you and sort of depend on you for at least emotional support.
Mm-hmm.
People who listen to your podcast and follow you in that way, but also personal friends
Mm-hmm.
who know they can turn to you for support. And you're doing that for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as I think about my role as a caregiver for you, that's, I'm not going to, as long as I can,
Mm-hmm.
add to that list.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you already are just so wonderful about figuring out when I'm, need to talk or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or might not be feeling well. But these are things that I'm trying to protect you as much as a mom can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But also, I think then I stay awake at night thinking, is there something going on over there?
Oh, stop it. No.
So you mentioned earlier, like finding out about something on Facebook, right? And so related to that, like, so Allison has been very open on social media with the life that her and Sean are living, the challenges with her for her caregiving life. And as part of that, with that openness, she often gets a lot of support and maybe recognition for the role that she is in. But I imagine being kind of that one step removed, that ring 3, that secondary caregiver, that people aren't always aware of what you're doing, which we've kind of talked about a little bit, and that you don't get maybe recognized or get support for, the role you're playing, which, as we've talked about again, like, you're on call like all the time. Like, this is no small thing that you are, for you to be helping them in this way. So to be playing such a large role in this and to maybe not get as much support or acknowledgement for what you're doing, like, how has that been? What is that like? Are there things that you wish were different in that sense?
Allison is also good at saying things about, and my mom was there to do such and such, in like the household emergencies or the ER visits or something like that. And, and she will do a shout out to me as well as to other people who came in, to help in various situations. And, and that's great. I honestly don't feel so put upon that people don't get it. And, I've thought sometimes that the whole division of my life into, okay, this was when we still lived in Fort Wayne, and now this is life in Minnesota, that I don't hear have like a huge network of of friends, close friends, less close friends,
Mm-hmm.
who might in a situation like this be ignoring or overlooking my role, if that's making some sense.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that I meet in other situations don't know about what I'm doing. And I often just, don't talk about that or just mention it in a side way of I'm doing such and such. So I don't take in any way like a personal affront to the fact that I'm not getting shout outs all the time.
Yeah.
And as I said, Allison's good on Facebook of saying, we just went through this. And, my mom was with me in the ER and, fine. She doesn't ever say, I called her at 4:15. But she is, you are, Allison, you're considerate about, recognizing not me, but other people, not only me, but other people who are helpful in your life.
So why is it that you don't, in talking to people, you don't talk a lot about you and your role or go into much detail there?
That's a good question. I think that, there's a level of it that is, it's personal and it's our family kind of thing.
Yeah.
A kind of generic statement like, I'm here to help my daughter and her family. A lot of people my age are in Minnesota for that reason. I moved here because my daughter was here, my family was here, kind of thing. And it's not necessarily something to talk about. There are not that many people that I've just, unloaded the entire situation. And then, the thing is, then there's like, all this, clutching of the pearls and, this must be kind of thing. And I don't necessarily want to do that as well. Because some of this is, it's a private relationship in some ways that I don't feel I need to share with people I don't know very well.
Yeah. And I can see, like, from my experience in not talking a lot with people about, when things were really rough and I was in the depths of caregiving with Sarah, like, there's also like a sense of normalcy that you want to have and like not have every conversation be about that, to be able to feel like, you can just exist outside of that and have a moment where you can have a conversation with someone that's not about that or centered around that, for sure.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a good point. That sort of protects you as well. You're not thinking about or dwelling on at this moment.
Yeah.
Because I know you've said that, when you have told people that, then the next time they see you, they say, how is Sean?
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
And so right. And which is very sweet. But then also they kind of skip over, how is Barbara?
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that there's some places in your life where you get to just be Barbara and not like Barbara, the woman with the son-in-law who's really sick.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we always talk to supporters a little bit here at the end of the episode. And so from your experience, Barbara, in this kind of secondary role, what would you say to supporters who are maybe primarily supporting the primary caregiver, like how they could, support the person like you who's kind of next in line, or that they should kind of be aware of or be thinking about?
I think that some things that have been helpful have been people doing like mundane things. People showing up to rake the leaves, to do the laundry. And I have to hope that they're not being judgmental about that. That's, I think, Allison, I'm trying to be really good about like not thinking, how'd you let this laundry pile up? Or how come this is such a mess kind of thing. That's just not even a piece of any of this. Right. And I would hope that anybody else who is doing some of those, just the mundane things, you've got a great dog walking friend now who's taking that off your plate. So just do those things without going to like, well, she ought to be able to do this, or look at her, she's just sitting there having a cup of tea, she could be that sort of thing. And I don't know that folks are doing that, but that just has to be, I think, part of the mindset. If you show up to do something, then you do it, and you do it for the person without questioning why they might need that.
But what about you? So that you're your answer was how people could support me.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking about, people hearing this and then thinking, we're trying to get people to recognize like, okay, here's the person who's sick. There's a person behind them. That's the caregiver. But today I want people to widen their view to say there's another person in some situation, not everybody, right? But what would you say to folks about noticing and supporting and acknowledging the third tier, the secondary caregivers, and how you can support them?
That's if indeed they know that, because I think they don't always realize there might be, a third circle person doing that. But again, I mean, I don't know that anybody has ever said to me, "Oh, this must be really hard. How you're doing?"
Wow.
And I would break down and cry if somebody said that to me, to me, probably. But I think that, in your situation, Allison, the focus is so much on Sean and on what you're doing that this is a much more invisible, supportive role.
Right. Yeah. It's shocking to me that nobody has ever said that to you.
I cannot think that anybody has ever said that about this situation, right?
That's got to be really hard.
Yeah.
And maybe I have that same thought about myself, that, it's not a visible, out there, evident role necessarily that I'm taking, and it's not one that I necessarily want to get credit for or anything like that. So
I mean, there's credit, but then there's also just acknowledgement.
Yeah,
like, when you said, if somebody said to you, "This sounds really hard," like that's not just credit. I mean, that's just acknowledging it and putting that out there. Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly don't think anybody's ever said that this must be really hard for you. For me. Yeah.
So supporters, I think to hear that and then to think about like, who is that person and how can we recognize them and the role that they are playing as well. I want to say that to those who are listening, that I do not take for granted for one hot minute the fact that I have this incredible, helpful, loving, thoughtful person who lives 8 minutes away from me. And I'm sure that there are people who are listening today who are like, well, I don't have a Barbara. I mean, most people probably don't. And so, there could be, I think that there could be a sense today listening of like, oh, that must be nice. And I have to say, it is. It absolutely is. And I think that even on good days or whatever, I feel more relaxed knowing that you're 8 minutes away. Like sometimes if you're out of town or something, it's like, we were fine. But it's just like, oh, I just feel better when you're 8 minutes away.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yes. And so, I mean, just all of the things that you do for us and have done for us, and I know that will continue to do for us, there's just not enough like words in the world to say how grateful I am for that and the role that you have played. And that I think the reason I'm still standing is because of you and the support that you have given me. So thank you.
Well, you are welcome. I was thinking one day how, in thinking about these 10 years, is the fun it's been to like watch Maya grow up.
Yeah.
And that, when we first moved here, she still needed a lot of like driving around and caring for, and that would be an issue in one of the middle of the night things.
Yeah.
Yep.
And now to realize that she's independent, I mean, that's lovely as a grandparent to be able to watch that too. So there are some wonderful benefits. Plus, I've often said to you, if you had moved to a state that we wouldn't mention, that would be one thing. But you moved to the Twin Cities. How cool is that? So there's also that that we love living here.
Right. Yes. Well, and I should mention that even like with Maya, and I don't know, were we in the hospital? Probably. I don't know. We were somewhere recently, and Maya like got in a little fender bender, and you were the one to help, and so, it's not just us and medical stuff, but I mean, we've had the basement flood, and it's like, you've helped us with that. And so, my goodness, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And thank you for having this conversation with us today.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, you guys.
Absolutely. Right. Is there anything that we didn't cover today that you were hoping we would talk about?
I actually have a little bit of a list here, but I think we've covered things. I'm sometimes a little concerned that people I kind of want to be in my role. They want to be like, closer and in on it all kind of thing. And that one of my roles in Circle 3 is also to maybe deflect and kind of, protect the intimacy of, certainly the relationship of you and Sean.
Right.
And I guess then one other piece from my own perspective is needing to realize when I need to step away because it just should be you and Sean or you and Sean and Maya. That I'm not, and we're not a foursome. You are still a threesome.
Yeah.
So people in this circle, I think maybe just, need to, it's helpful to think about how close and how often to be looking in and doing things.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here. And you are invited to join us for the support group on this topic if you would like to. And so we'll let folks know when that's going to be.
All right.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, as Allison said, thanks for being here. Thanks for all you do for them. And thanks for just helping us understand a little bit more what life is like in that secondary role.
Yeah.
Well, and I have learned a lot from both of you in person and on the podcast. So thank you for that, for sharing your wisdom.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks. We'll see you later.
Okay. See you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye. You've been listening to In Sickness. Find us online at insickness.care or on Instagram at insicknesspodcast. You can send your questions and comments to hosts@insickness.care. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend or fellow caregiver. Thanks for listening and take care.